younger, I used to play a lot of video games. But as I grew older, they started taking too much time from my other activities. For this reason, I started to gradually reduce the time I spent playing them until I eventually quit. But recently, I decided to incorporate some more downtime into my schedule, and I gave video games another shot. This is when I remembered just how fun video games can be. It wasn't long before I was looking forward to the end of the day just so I could hop on the computer and play. But this also got me wondering, what exactly made those games so compelling? And could I somehow apply those game elements to other areas of my own life to make them more desirable? This is what I've learned. Most video games are structured in a way so that throughout the game our brain consistently releases dopamine. I'm sure many of you are already aware, but for those of you who don't know, dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with wanting and desire. It's one of the reasons why we want to repeat certain behaviors over and over and why we have the motivation to pursue something. You could say that dopamine is kind of like a carrot on a stick. Wherever the carrot goes, we want to follow. And video games are really good at constantly dangling this carrot right in front of you. Especially RPGs, also known as role-playing games where you level up and play a fictional character in a virtual world. These types of games can be particularly addicting because they have what I like to call a dopamine trail. Essentially, the game has a lot of different components that consistently trigger the release of dopamine over and over. This way we don't get bored and we want to continue playing. Now, I've identified 5 key elements that form this dopamine trail, which you can actually replicate in your own life. But just to clarify, I'll be using RPGs as an example as they resemble our lives the most. Not every single game has all the components I'm going to talk about, however they probably have at least a few. So let's take a look at those elements. Let's see how you can take control of the carrot and make your own daily activities more compelling. The first key element is that you always have a clear objective to work towards and you know what you should be doing. Maybe you need to kill a dragon or rescue a princess. It doesn't matter. What's important is that you know in which direction you need to go. In real life, however, many of us don't really know what we're working towards. And while other people can set direction for us, it's not the same as when we set the path ourselves. Whether it's running a marathon, reaching a certain position at work, or writing your own book, having a clear goal you're working towards gives your actions purpose. Otherwise, your efforts just feel meaningless. But while killing a dragon might be the end goal, the game doesn't really make you focus on that too much. Instead, it's broken down into shorter sub-goals that lead up to that big moment. First, you might help the king get his stolen jewelry back, then you help a wizard with his potion problem, etc. Whenever we finish something, no matter how mundane or small it might seem, we get rewarded with a sense of accomplishment. And the more we feel accomplished, the more we want to continue feeling that way. Essentially, this creates a loop where a tiny bit of success rewards us with dopamine and motivation to continue, which results into more success. Sure, we might have not killed the dragon yet, but we've still completed something that's leading in that direction. And that's all that matters, since as long as we continue doing that, eventually that big goal will be achieved. If you want to write a book, for example, your sub-goals might look something like this. Create a chapter outline, design a book cover, write 1000 words, edit 1 page. Of course, all of these can be broken down even further, but I think you get the general idea. The point is to kickstart the achievement loop and do something that will lead you towards the greater objective. Now, goals are also important because of the second key element that video games have, which is that progress is visible. Games make it very clear that you're improving by showing you that the experience bar is getting filled up. However, it never says you're 0.7% on your way to level 100. That would be demotivating. Instead, it shows you that you're 70% towards level 2. This visible progress gives you the necessary motivation to continue grinding forward. It's very easy to justify playing a little longer just so you can reach that next level before logging out. But the thing is that usually there are multiple progress bars getting filled up at the same time, so that by the time you reach level 3 in one skill, you're almost level 5 in another. And when you reach that level 5, you're now close to level 4 in the other one. So you're made aware that you're constantly close to completing something, which makes you want to keep on playing. However, progress in real life is usually not that obvious and you must make it visible yourself. I found that one of the best ways to do that is by simply tracking your daily activities. During each day, make sure to take note of all the things you've done that led you towards your goals. If you wrote 500 words for your book, write it down. If you ran 3 miles for your training, write it down. If you studied for 1 hour, write it down. And if you saved $10 by skipping Starbucks, write it down. This way you make your progress, or lack of it, actually visible somewhere, and you can clearly see if you're getting closer to your goals or sub-goals. And when you see that you're close to accomplishing one of them, you'll be more motivated to continue moving forward just so you can reach that milestone. Now, knowing that you're progressing is also important because of the third key element, which is that games reward you for your effort. There is often some sort of prize when you reach a certain level or complete a quest, and these rewards serve as an incentive to complete your tasks. Would you bother killing a dragon if you didn't get anything for it? Probably not. But because there is a prize, you keep completing those quests. Rewards are often one of the best motivators in real life as well, as when you anticipate getting one, your brain makes sure to release a lot of dopamine. In the back of your mind, you know that once you finish, let's say, studying for example, you get to enjoy a reward of your choice without any guilt, which can easily make you power through your task. But it has to be noted that in video games, the reward always rewards you back in some way. Once you defeat an enemy, you might get a stronger sword, which means you can now defeat bigger enemies. Essentially, the prize you receive makes the gameplay better for you, and it makes you want to continue playing. And this is something that a lot of us get wrong. When we eat healthy for 1 week straight and we go to the gym 5 times during that period, sure, we deserve a reward. But instead of having a reward that rewards us back, we usually do something that hurts the progress we've made. We reward ourselves by eating the whole cake while laying on the couch, which, if you think about it, isn't a smart move. Imagine completing a quest in the game and instead of gaining a level, you get penalized and your stats get worse. It doesn't happen. Yet in real life, we often do just that. We manage to save $500 and what do? We reward ourselves with a brand new phone, which we don't really need, or something of that nature. Instead, we should invest that money into an asset that will reward us back, that will allow us to make and save even more money in the future. Or for another example, if you like running, like me, you could reward your consistency with new running shoes. That kind of reward makes the runs easier and it reinforces the habit. So think about your own life situation and find a reward that rewards you back, or at least make sure it doesn't sabotage your progress like it usually does. But you might notice that the rewards in games aren't always the same. You don't always get a better sword, but instead you sometimes get a stronger armor, other times it's a new spell, etc. Which brings me to the fourth key game element, variety and novelty. Good games always have something new waiting for us. It could be new area unlocks, new enemies, or just new cosmetics. Our brains love variety, and as long as an activity has something novel to stimulate us, it remains attractive and satisfying. Imagine if instead of experiencing something new in the game, you would have to repeat the same level over and over. Most of us wouldn't find it fun. We would get bored of doing the same thing pretty quickly, and we would want to quit. And it's the same in our daily lives. If we want to stick to something long term, it helps if we can incorporate something new into the activity. If you have a job, think back on the first day you spent there. The job probably didn't feel boring, instead it was most likely interesting. There were so many new people to meet and a lot of things to learn. However, 1 year later, once all that novelty has faded, the job probably became boring and dull. That's because it became routine and now there's nothing new to experience. It's kinda like repeating the same level in a game for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You don't really have anything to look forward to since you already know what to expect. While I do encourage having some sort of a routine in your life, it's also good if you have some variation within that routine. So if you usually do the same work all the time, see if it's possible to take on a different project to switch it up a little bit. Preferably something that you're not fully familiar with, so the challenge is novel. Now, while you might not be able to have a direct impact on the way you do things at your job, you can always incorporate some new aspects that are still related to it, which you do have control over. Like befriending someone at the office who you don't normally interact with, maybe reorganizing your desk, or just going to a different restaurant to eat your lunch. As you can see, it doesn't have to be a massive change, nor does it have to be permanent. The point is to just have a new experience every once in a while. You can also spice up your workout routine by trying out a new exercise, Or if you're still studying for school, try to find a different study location. Just look for a way to make your day slightly different. Now the fifth and final key element that games have is that they consistently challenge you. The human brain loves working on and overcoming obstacles, but the difficulty has to match your current skill level, otherwise you won't enjoy them, nor will you want to do them. In other words, the challenge must be neither too hard nor too easy. When you start at level 1, you don't go fighting the biggest and the baddest boss right away. You would get defeated every time as it would be too difficult for your skill level. And because it would be too hard, you wouldn't want to continue playing. This is why games set you up against easier challenges first, those that you're able to actually overcome. But once you get better at the game, the difficulty also ramps up. Otherwise, if you were to improve but the challenge stayed the same, you wouldn't want to continue playing. There is no fun if you're able to just effortlessly demolish everything in your way. You would quickly get bored because the game would be too easy. The challenge has to feel at least semi-difficult so that when you overcome it, you can actually feel proud about it and get rewarded by that sweet, sweet dopamine. But in real life, we are only rarely faced with optimal challenges. Instead, most of the time, we're either overwhelmed or bored by them. If something feels overwhelming and you can't bring yourself to do it, chances are that it's above your current skill level. You need to take a step back and start slow at the beginning. Break that big task down into more manageable pieces. Then you should tackle those pieces individually and focus on the easiest one first. This helps bring the difficulty down and get the momentum going at the same time. If something feels too easy, you must increase the challenge. Ideally, you would want to skip the easy tasks, but sometimes they just have to get done. Personally, I increase their difficulty by imposing time limits on them. I give myself a time frame and try to do the task before the time runs out. This forces me to find a way to be more efficient, which also helps me get through it faster in the future. I'm still doing the same boring activity, but the time pressure ramps up the difficulty and makes it more fun. So try to match the difficulty to your skill level. You will find that whenever you're able to do so, you will be more engaged and the activity will be more compelling. By now, you probably have a much better understanding about what makes video games so addictive. And you might notice that if those elements are not present, the game doesn't really pull us in as much. Of course, there can also be other factors that make games irresistible, not just the 5 I've described. One, for example, could be the social aspect that provides a sense of community and competition. Another one might be cool background music that we enjoy. Or the game could provide us with feelings of autonomy and a sense of control. However, I didn't want to focus on every single factor because I wanted to prioritize the most prevalent ones found in RPGs, since those games resemble our lives the most. Now, it also has to be noted that video games apply all those elements at an extremely rapid rate, making the release of dopamine very frequent. So frequent, in fact, that our daily activities aren't actually able to match it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't replicate the dopamine trail. In fact, it's even more important that you implement it, otherwise you'll just get pulled towards wherever the most dopamine is. So make sure to apply those 5 elements to the areas of your life that you find most important. This will allow you to take control of the carrot and you'll be able to do whatever you set out to do. If you made it this far into the video, let me just say that you're awesome. And I would highly appreciate it if you would gently tap that like button below the video. This shows the YouTube algorithm that ideas like these are worth spreading and it shows my content to more people, which means more people can benefit from it and improve their lives. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope I made it better than yesterday.